It's been quite an interesting week for controversial content creators, controversial figures in politics, and controversial people across the board. Starting out with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, as there may have been just one of the biggest cover-ups of our generation, and we may have just witnessed it firsthand from the President of the United States. The Jeffrey Epstein files have just become one of the largest talking points, arguably in the political landscape, above anything else. Because, of course, the FBI and the DOJ released a 10-hour video file from the cell block where Jeffrey Epstein was being held on the night of his passing. And it was allegedly supposed to show categorical proof that the FBI, the government, had absolutely nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein's passing, and that what he did was completely by his own accord. But the footage in question showed absolutely nothing from Jeffrey Epstein's cell. In fact, his cell alone was not even in camera view, and there was also a minute missing from the file. From 10:59:58 or something, or like 11:58 through to midnight, that minute and 2 seconds was missing. It was a complete lapse, and then the camera footage then shifts, almost like there's a little pan in, like an edit and a hard cut has been put in place. Now, Pam Bondi was questioned on this. Donald Trump obviously intervened and was like, are we still talking about this Jeffrey Epstein creep? Almost as if to kind of sugarcoat and glaze over it and move the conversation forwards, which has raised even more alarm bells. Obviously, I've made 2 videos about this already, but the most common recent stuff, to come out from Donald Trump is just adding insult to injury at this point and is raising far more suspicions than it is answers. And Donald Trump is questioning why people are so infatuated by this. Why are people still talking about this? Well, because you're doing stuff like this. So over on Truth Social, which is of course the Twitter page for Donald Trump right now, he's posted this. What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA. And I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration and the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agencies, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't given up. They haven't even given up. Now, obviously, this is again trying to shift the narrative away from the Epstein files, which is just raising more questions because everyone's like, well, why do you want it to shift? There was just a single post on Truth Social again. Stop talking about Epstein. All caps, exclamation marks at the end. And, it's almost as if Donald Trump just wants to bury the Epstein files as much as he possibly can. Now, let's not forget, when there was the public breakup, we'll call it, the biggest breakup of 2025 between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, Elon Musk dropped an absolute bomb on social media stating that, the reason that the Epstein files haven't been released is because Donald Trump was on the client list. Now, let's also not forget that Pam Bondi even stated prior to this footage being released by the DOJ that was supposed to prove Epstein wasn't, didn't have his life taken. There wasn't a client list, but footage from, time ago proves that there was a client list because she stated there was a client list sat on her desk. So is there or isn't there a client list? Now, allegedly, Donald Trump is mentioned within this client list. So it would, play into the narrative potentially that, that Donald Trump wants to get rid of this because it's not exactly a great look that he would be mentioned in the Epstein files. Now, there's also more footage coming out and going viral on social media from Senator Claire McCaskill, former Senator Claire McCaskill, stating that there are more pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein than there have been with trans athletes in the NCAA. Take a little listen to this.
I'm saying he was close to the fire. He was, and somebody said over the weekend, there are more pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein than there are trans athletes in the NCAA by multiples. So the bottom line is he wants this to go away now.
Now, this is pretty huge, and people are putting hot coals to Donald Trump's feet right now and trying to get him to squirm. He's squirming, in my opinion. You know, it's quite obvious. But let's not forget as well that Donald Trump recently stated that he never even knew Jeffrey Epstein, never met the guy. But there is a multitude of pictures online of them having photos together. So they clearly knew each other. The narrative is becoming very skew-iff, very messy. Now, Coffeezilla, a YouTuber on his second channel, Voidzilla, has been really keeping up with this one right now, and he wants to bury the Epstein files is the title of his latest video. And within that, you know, there is some, you know, hot news. So basically, he even goes as far as to state that there is an elite protection narrative to try and protect the elites at the cost of the victims, but playing the gaslight narrative of you don't want to release the files because it's detrimental to the victims and it could hurt the victims. Now, Voidzilla, Coffeezilla, goes against that and states that the reluctance to release the files is attributed to protecting powerful individuals, including Trump, Bill Clinton, and possibly even Prince Andrew, who were associated with Epstein. And the transcript suggests that these elites, regardless of political affliction, may fear potential exposure moving forward. Now, there are connections to Epstein, so Trump, Clinton and Prince Andrew were reportedly close with Epstein, with evidence like photos and a dinner party anecdote contradicting Trump's claims of not even knowing Prince Andrew or Jeffrey Epstein. Now, you know, multiple sources like Mark Epstein, who is the brother to Jeffrey Epstein, Michael Wolff and Steve Bannon suggest that Epstein had compromising information on Trump and Clinton, potentially explaining their resistance on releasing the files. So, you know, we can only speculate what this damning information is, but, you know, it also plays into this narrative of why the files won't be released fully by Donald Trump. You know, and some people, you know, play this like victim protection as, you know, a shield. So while some like Pam Bondi, for example, claim that the files were withheld to protect the victims, you know, people argue that this is a pretext to shield the powerful individuals named in the document. So basically, they are using the victims to protect the elites, is what people are trying to state here. And that the elites are the ones that are absolutely shitting bricks right now because their whole empire is about to come crumbling down around them. And they're using the victims as to gaslight the people into being like, oh no, we don't want to, you know, upset the victims. We don't want to compromise the victims. When in actuality, they don't want to compromise themselves, and they're using that as a tool to try and not get this evidence released. Now, I think it's very interesting, but there's also FBI searches which uncovered binders with explicit photos and names, and Wall Street Journal reports which indicated that Epstein actually attempted to blackmail Bill Gates, contradicting claims of no blackmail. Right, so Bill Gates, obviously the CEO of Microsoft, one of the richest and most powerful men in the world, was, you know, he almost got blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein, which is incredibly strange. Now, obviously, this is just one of many situations where, like, it's all kind of coming crumbling down around people. Donald Trump's, like, you know, trying to kind of get people to move the narrative away. People, from what I can see over in America, correct me if I'm wrong, Americans, but it seems like people are starting to open their eyes up to this and see that actually there's something shady going on here, which is why Donald Trump is so eager to get people to kind of shift the narrative. Very interesting. Then we've got a cellmate of, well, not a cellmate, but the man that stayed in Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell shortly after he allegedly took his own life. And he categorically states that it would be nigh on impossible for someone to take their own life in that prison cell, which completely debunks all of the claims made by the FBI and the DOJ recently. The Jeffrey Epstein topic has taken over the internet recently. Donald Trump is in a fit of panic trying to work out and trying to, cover everything up as best he can. It's time for Donald Trump to come clean about the truth and everything that is going on, because the elites right now seem to be using the victims as a shield to try and protect themselves. I've made a series of videos so far kind of going over the released footage from the DOJ and the FBI, which was supposed to prove the fact that Jeffrey Epstein, in no way was there any foul play or malice towards Jeffrey Epstein, and absolutely what happened with him was, completely by his own accord, right, by taking his own life, for example. But the footage shows anything but. The footage showed a cell block, which didn't even show Jeffrey Epstein's cell, and it had a minute of footage missing. 1 minute and 2 seconds of footage was missing, and it looked like there was a hard cut and a pan in, which has, raised some very serious eyebrows about what on earth is actually going on here. But now we've had a really interesting episode dropped from News Nation, right? And it comes from an inmate that has been interviewed, who was held in the exact same cell as Jeffrey Epstein, and claims that he could not have killed himself at all. That was not a possibility. Let's take a little listen to this, because obviously this could be absolutely huge and completely undo all of the hard work that the DOJ and the FBI have been trying to, cover up over the past 2 weeks, and Donald Trump is absolutely shitting bricks about right now.
Okay, I'm joined now by someone, and this is interesting, with intimate knowledge of the very jail cell Epstein died in. Michael Francis, he was a capo for the Colombo crime family in the 1980s. He served time in the exact cell where Epstein was later held. Michael, welcome back to the program. Tell us about that cell, and what do you make of these revelations that there is a minute missing from the surveillance video, Michael?
Well, listen, I spent 7 months on that tier and in those cells. And the first thing I have to say, there's no way you are able to commit suicide. There's just no way. There's no way to hang yourself. There's nothing from the ceiling. There's nothing from the bed. You'd have to be a midget and work really hard to try to hang yourself. And I don't think you can accomplish it at that point. As far as the cameras being off, I haven't experienced that. I did 8 years in prison, and I haven't experienced cameras being broken in the perfect storm of correctional officers not walking those cells. They walk in and they look in on you all the time.
Now, obviously, this was the narrative that was played by the DOJ and the FBI from the files, right? Was that the correctional officers fell asleep on the night that he, passed away. So everyone was put in their cells by 8 p.m. Doors were locked, lights out, right? That was it, 8 p.m. And between 10:40 p.m. and 6:30 a.m., Jeffrey Epstein was not checked on, right? Apparently, on that specific night. But we can see footage of someone in an orange, what looks to be an orange jumpsuit, similar to that of what was worn in the prison, kind of comes into frame on the footage at around 10:30 p.m., which is obviously 2.5 hours after everyone was supposed to be locked away under lock and key, and, that was it, job done for the night. And then we see a correctional officer sprint across the room. Now, that's that part. With regards to the footage, obviously Pam Bondi was questioned about this with Donald Trump, who tried to shut it down really quickly. Pam Bondi turned around and stated, no, this is because this is a dated camera system. Every single night there is a hard reset at 11:59 until midnight, and then the camera resets for 1 minute. Apparently that happens every single night, and they are working with the FBI to release more footage to prove this. That footage has not yet come to fruition. This guy obviously is turning around and stating, it's a perfect alibi. It's just the right thing to say because no one can prove otherwise.
As a matter of fact, sometimes it's embarrassing to go to the toilet because they're walking past you and looking in the cell constantly. So I've said this from day one. I do not believe it was suicide. I can't talk about what happened to him, but I don't believe it was a suicide because you just couldn't physically do it. It would be almost impossible to do it. So that's number one.
It must be
and I gotta
interesting,
tell-
Michael. When you look at the video, though, it must be interesting because you know the area. I mean, we all look at this and it just looks like a prison, but this must look very familiar to you.
Absolutely. Very familiar. And the fact that a minute is missing, look, everything around this guy. I just did a very deep dive into him, which I'll be releasing on my platform in the next several days. Look, there's no way that this person operated alone. Look, they have the videos. Alan Dershowitz recently said that he saw the client list, but because there's people that he can't, because he's an attorney, he can't, reveal what he saw. But he said he saw the client list. He's demanding that it be released. To think that there's no flight logs, that there's no client list, that the thousands of recordings that they had, because I found out for sure that he had cameras on every bedroom, recording everything, and all of a sudden all of it is gone. I mean, none of this makes sense. And look, the only reason it's important, it's not that anybody's trying to say, come on, this guy was a creep. And there was young women involved in this, young girls that were trafficked and abused. I have 5 daughters and I have granddaughters, and I just don't like it. And anybody that's involved in this should be held accountable. I recently interviewed Paul Hutchinson, who was...
Now, I'm just going to pause it there because obviously along the bottom here it says DOJ and FBI, no list, no blackmail, no murder. So obviously this is the contention that we're talking about right here. But with regards to this, Pam Bondi stated that there was no list, and so has everyone else. But Pam Bondi has also stated that a list was sat on her desk ready for review. So where's that list now? And then the no blackmail. It's been confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein attempted to actually blackmail the owner of Bill Gates, the owner of Microsoft. So obviously there was an attempted blackmail. So again, more lies from the DOJ and the FBI, and it's just an absolute shit show.
A major figure in the Sound of Freedom. He was one of the ones that went to rescue, I think, 51 or 52 of these young girls and young boys that were being exploited and trafficked. I mean, this has got to stop. And if these people are not held accountable, it's just going to continue. And unfortunately, it seems like it's people with power and money. It seems that, from what my investigation, that this Les Wexner was the first one that Epstein was able to bribe. And, there's a lot of stuff here that needs to come out, and it's really shameful if it doesn't. That's my opinion. But as far as the jail cell, no way there was a source.
I want to go back to the jail cell because you lived in that jail cell. And just real quick, again, tell me, would you have the privacy in that jail cell to take your own life?
Not only would you not have the privacy, I don't understand how you would be able to do it. You have to hang yourself from something. There's nothing on the ceiling that you can hang a bed sheet on. The bed is not that high. I mean, you have to try to lay down on the floor in some way because Jeffrey Epstein was a fairly big guy. You'd have to be a midget to even try to hang yourself. So it's not a question of not only are there cameras on are the COs walking the tier constantly, especially from what I understand, Jeffrey Epstein was on suicide watch for a while. They watch you very, very closely. Trust me on that. So I just can't buy it. I cannot buy it. I'm sorry. And I have no horse in this race other than my experience and the fact that I just couldn't see it happening.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on tonight, Michael. We appreciate your perspective, especially as someone who's been in that exact cell. Thank you so much, sir.
Obviously, does this mean that he didn't actually do it? No, but we do have to kind of preface that and state that this isn't categorical proof that, there was foul play involved. But it's closer to the truth than we've had from anyone of, reputable source, whether that be the FBI, the DOJ, or even President Donald Trump himself or his party, right? Like, it's a total mess. This entire situation is a total mess. Then we bring it back to social media influencers, and we've got Bonnie Blue, who not only speaks on her recent permanent ban from OnlyFans, but also talks about her next upcoming disgusting challenge. Bonnie Blue, controversial OF content creator, controversial influencer, if you can label them an influencer, and, quite blatantly a facade and mask over basically a personality. Now, what I mean by that is, you've got, the way I view Bonnie Blue is there's two sides of the same person. You've got Tia Ballinger is, of course, her real name, and I think that is, the real person. And then when they step in front of a camera, when there's a camera in their face, when they're doing these events, they become this alternative person by the name of Bonnie Blue. Now, I don't think that the personality that she kind of embodies in Bonnie Blue, I mean, I'm only speculating here, of course. I don't think that that is actually the person, and I don't think that that's who she truly is. But I think that she wants people to think that that is. But that's what the moneymaker is. Now, Bonnie Blue, of course, has done a huge amount of insane stunts. It started out with sleeping with 100 guys. That was kind of what the base layer was in like 24 hours. Then it jumped to 1,057 guys in under 12 hours. Then it was this whole petting zoo thing, and there's been a whole bunch of other things like the barely legal stuff, sleeping with a dad and a son at the same time, getting husbands to cheat on their wives with her because apparently that's okay. And basically outlandish claims that she can make to try and get as much notoriety as possible so that she can then in turn make as much money as possible. You've got to respect the grind, but it's come with its controversies. Now, of course, the biggest stunt recently was the petting zoo stunt, which completely went against OF's terms of service, and the unthinkable happened. OnlyFans banned Bonnie Blue from the platform, full stop, which is like unheard of. I don't think I've known of a single creator who's ever been banned to this kind of scale. Now, reportedly, Bonnie Blue is earning upwards of like £600,000 a month on the platform, and that's now been completely stripped from her, right? She has since made like a little, interview, or done a little interview with Us Weekly, I think it is, where she's spoken about the ban and how apparently it's incredibly unfair. Let's take a little listen.
Yes, so it's a permanent ban. And it was completely unfair and no explanation for it, to put it bluntly. I got given a warning for something another creator did. And when they gave me the warning, I was like, surely an £8 billion company is not giving me a formal warning for something another creator has done. So I was like, okay, I'm going to send them all the evidence, because they gave me a formal warning for a dogging tour, which I never promoted, never spoke about. I said, hey, you've got me mixed up with somebody else. Here's all the evidence of this other creator who has put it on their Telegram, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. That's them. I haven't spoke about that at all, but they still gave me the formal warning for it. So that was obviously frustrating, because despite giving them evidence, I was still given a warning for something which I hadn't done at all. Then they said, hey, look, we don't want you doing the Glass Box event. That was when I was going to try and sleep with 2,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, as much as I really want to do it and I want to give back to people and I think it'll be a fun day for me and everyone involved, I will cancel the event. So they'd given me like a 7-day ban. This was like a week before my permanent ban.
Okay.
So they said, hey, look, we're going to give you a 7-day ban because here's a formal warning for the dogging tour. Like I said, that wasn't me. And also because you've spoke about a Glass Box event, we don't want you doing that. However, there's no communication to say, hey, we don't want you doing the Glass Box. Can you cancel it? It was instantly a 7-day ban, which I was going to receive zero income from, and I wasn't allowed to speak to my subscribers. Didn't argue back. I just gave them the evidence of the fact they've been confused, which they completely dismissed. And within this 7-day ban, I retract all my TikToks, all my social media about the Glass Box. I reached out to podcasts that was due to post that week and say, hey, look, can I please pay you, or can you just retract the video? Like, I'm so sorry for wasting your time, but I can't have more promotion going out regarding this event, which I've just cancelled. Which I did. Everyone complied. I removed all the evidence of the event, and even went on TikTok, Instagram and Twitter and said, hey, it's no longer going ahead. The event's been cancelled. And the day before the account was due to come back, they gave me a permanent ban.
So obviously that's where we sat with that, right? And she's like, oh yeah, permanent ban, all the rest of it. Interesting way that it went about. Obviously, there's no news or anything from OF to say that she'll be coming back or anything like that. Nothing from Bonnie Blue to say that she's had her account reinstated. Obviously, she still then went ahead with the petting box zoo or the glass box event. Allegedly, anyway. I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know. But now she's basically come out with another one. Another challenge. Yay! Happy days. Everyone loves a challenge from Bonnie Blue. So, yeah, this one's... I don't even know the logistics of this. I don't care to know the logistics of this, but it's what she's going to be doing. So, this has come out from the Tab, who have put out an article saying it's been a rough few weeks for Bonnie Blue, and now she's had yet another one of her gross challenges removed. This week, she revealed plans for a bathtub full of fluid. Obviously, I'm sure we can all imagine which way that was going to go. She posted about wanting to quote-unquote fill a bathtub, and even shared Google Docs of where to send the quote-unquote fluids to. July 26th, I want to be bathing all of your... Send them to me and let me play... Oh my god. I don't even want to finish the sentences, because this video is already probably demonetized as we speak, so yeah, anyway. The post obviously got loads of backlash. Bonnie Blue needs help. Things that are allowing all the purely unhealthy, internalized misogyny. One person said, others said she needs therapy. Bonnie Blue quickly deleted the post on Instagram, but the reason was not immediately clear. But some of the posts the event was still live. I'm so excited to swim in all your fluids, only a week away. Oh, so she's really like going for it, obviously. This is one of the TikToks I think that she made for it.
Boys, why waste your load? I know exactly how to treat your DNA. I would taste it, and then I would bury it inside of me, so I get to play with your babies.
Ugh. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like that was a completely involuntary reaction. Now, unsurprisingly, this has obviously been met with scrutiny and backlash, but that's what Bonnie Blue thrives on, is the backlash, is the scrutiny. You know, that's what gets people talking, and, you know, it gets people, like, up in arms about it, and then, in turn, it pays her. I don't know what her income revenue is now, or, like, income stream, where that's coming from. It's none of my business, but with OF gone, you know, she's clearly trying to maintain that relevancy. I am still surprised, actually, to be fair, that OF have upheld that ban, because she's got to be one of the highest earning creators on the platform. And if they're taking, like, a revenue cut, I imagine that would be how it works. If they're taking a revenue cut, that's a huge loss for them. Like, a huge loss for them. So, I'm surprised to see that she's been permanently banned still, but unsurprising. I mean, at least they're upholding their terms of service, I suppose. And then we finish up with Lily Tino, whose the latest accusations that have been made against Lily Tino just make the whole situation with them go from bad to so much worse. Lily Tino is probably a name that you've heard quite a lot recently, especially if you've been scrolling on TikTok or even over on Twitter, because it is a name that is now linked with so much controversy. Lily Tino, just a quick little crash course on who they are in case you didn't know. Yes, I'm going to be referring to them as they, because obviously, as much as people claim, or this video is going to kind of lean towards the idea that, you know, Lily Tino isn't just a transgender male, but is actually just kind of something a bit more than that. You know, I'm not in the business of trying to offend anyone. But Lily Tino essentially was a person on TikTok who was trying to educate younger audiences on transgender rights, transgender people, and they kind of blew to popularity when they made a video in Disney World or Disneyland where there were kids running around the background talking about gender reassignment surgery. Essentially, having their popsicle or Pop-Tart turned into, pop cakes or something, I can't remember. Basically having it, yeah, you can imagine. And that kind of blew up, everyone was talking about it, and then there was this whole theme of getting misgendered, how it completely made them want to leave, and then there was naming and shaming, apparently. Or, you know, trying to name and shame waitresses and waiters in restaurants and cafes and bars because they misgendered Lily Tino, called them a male instead of a female. And it became a thing, a whole thing. They became absolutely massive off of it. Well, recently they've been reportedly are going to be investigated by the FBI after they were taking pictures inside of women's bathrooms. Now, they put this up as, you know, they were doing it because they wanted to rate the women's bathrooms from 1 to 10 in Disney World, every single one. But the issue was there were kids and females who did not consent to having their photos taken in a private place, which is actually against the law, and that's why they were getting investigated. They said that they'd done nothing wrong, but then suddenly they decided that they were going to take a long hiatus away from TikTok and social media, and that's where we were left off. Until we got to this brand new saga, I guess you can call it, where Lily Tino is now allegedly being investigated by social media, we'll call them sleuths, for wanting, well, for being an incel. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what an incel is, if you just Google it, it will give you the definition. But an incel is a member of an online community of young men who consider themselves unable to attract women sexually, typically associated with the views that they are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. So basically, you know, this is the idea that people are starting to run with. But before we get into that, obviously we've got this video here, which kind of gives you a bit of a rundown on why Lily Tino left social media recently, which led to these people kind of investigating things further.
Well, it's been confirmed. Lily Tino is not really trans and is, in fact, a hardcore incel. Another creator on here did an interview with one of Nick's old friends. John, as we call him, knew Lily, or Nick, from online incel communities. John now sees...
So Nick is Lily Tino's male name, right? They call it the dead name now because they've obviously transitioned into a woman, so they don't go by that anymore. But Nick was the name.
Why those communities are horrible, and he says that he has changed his ways. But John says that even when he was part of these hateful communities, the language that Nick used was so hateful that it even made him uncomfortable back then. Nick's obsession with Disney is nothing new. Apparently he was part of many Disney fandoms, particularly princesses, because a Disney princess was basically his dream girl. He would say things along the lines of, the Disney princess stories were set in a time when women knew their place and knew how to cook and clean and take care of a man. And so Nick used these fandoms to try to meet women, because he figured that if a woman was into Disney princesses, then hopefully she would act like a Disney princess. Now, throughout the interview, John says that Nick never called women girls or anything like that. He would always use a derogatory term. He would call them B-words or luts. Every single time he referred to women, he was always using derogatory terms. Of course, Nick was always disappointed with these girls that he would end up talking to, because he would say that they were claiming to be Disney fans, but they weren't really living up to the princess mentality.
So that is the idea. This person called John has come forward, who allegedly knew Nick from his times within these kind of incel circles, allegedly. Everything has to be alleged because, you know, it has to be said that way. Otherwise, I could end up with a lawsuit. Anyway, obviously, you know, this whole deep dive has gone crazy. Like, people have really delved into the origin story of Lily Tino, delved into how Lily Tino started out as an incel, allegedly, and this whole Disney fandom idea, which kind of does tie into the fact that, you know, it's some of Lily Tino's videos, most popular videos, were very Disney themed and Disney orientated, whether it be in Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. They were always there.
Well, it's been confirmed. Lily Tino is not really trans and is, in fact, a hardcore incel. Another creator on here did an interview with one of Nick's old friends. John, as we call him, knew Lily, or Nick, from online incel communities. John now sees why those communities are horrible, and he says that he has changed his ways. But John says that even when he was part of these hateful communities, the language that Nick used was so hateful that it even made him uncomfortable back then. Nick's obsession with Disney is nothing new. Apparently he was part of many Disney fandoms, particularly princesses, because a Disney princess was basically his dream girl. He would say things along the lines of, the Disney princess stories were set in a time when women knew their place and knew how to cook and clean and take care of a man. And so Nick used these fandoms to try to meet women, because he figured that if a woman was into Disney princesses, then hopefully she would act like a Disney princess. Now, throughout the interview, John says that Nick never called women girls or anything like that. He would always use a derogatory term. He would call them B-words or sluts. Every single time he referred to women, he was always using derogatory terms. Of course, Nick was always disappointed with these girls that he would end up talking to because he would say that they were claiming to be Disney fans, but they weren't really living up to the princess mentality. I wonder if Lily acts like a princess. He would also say that women shouldn't be part of like Star Wars fandoms and things like that because women should just be into princesses. Okay, now apparently he really resented Mulan and talked about it like all the time. Obviously, the storyline of Mulan is along the lines of a woman who disguises herself as a man so that she can, I believe, fight in a war. Pretty neat story, but of course Nick did not like that. And ironically would bring up that the trans community likes that movie. He would also critique Mulan's appearance, saying that her breasts were not big enough and that she looked or acted too manly, and says that this would never happen in real life because back then her family would have forced her to act like a lady. And the interviewer points out that Mulan was actually based on several real life stories. Now apparently Nick was obsessed with Pearl. So apparently Nick loved her, but would say that it's a shame that pretty girls never had that mentality. And he would pick apart her appearance, like down to like tiny details, while also like worshiping the words that she was saying. Now here's where it gets interesting. At one point, Nick had a relationship. If I understand correctly, they broke up and then his ex came out as trans. And when he saw that the ex was in a new relationship and looked happy and like they were doing well in life, he got extremely angry to the point that he was constantly talking to his friends like John and people online and just like posting in the fandoms constantly. To the point that there were rumors that he took off work because he was just constantly posting and talking to people just like furiously. So John thinks it might be possible that Lily came out as trans as revenge. Whatever the answer is, it's clear that he's not trans. He does not feel like a woman. He does not have respect for women. He hates women.
I mean, obviously, bold claims there without much proof to go off of. But again, this is not where it ends. As more videos have come out from different creators talking about how Lily Tino is not trans full stop and it was all just for the views, for the clout, for the revenge plot narrative and stuff like this. As someone has posted a video as well stating, no Lily Tino, you're not trans, just a narcissist and I can prove it. Bold claims.
Breeds narcissism, and I can prove it. And Lily Tino is the epitome of this. Welcome to another psychological deep dive. I really do hope that since it's Pride Month, y'all have just found something to be proud of, because like this is why I left the community back in 2019. Lily, you misgendered me. Tino is once again back at Disney causing a ruckus. Way more than that, actually. Talking about his dick surgery around children.
I think Disney's gonna ban me for this one. My corn dog is still intact.
Blech, I can't even. Lily, we know that you still have a corn dog, okay? We have video proof. Someone literally found Lily Tino walking around Disney World and recorded them, so... yeah, there's not a single woman in the world that walks like that. Not even butch lesbians, to be honest.
I'm not happy about that, but sadly it takes a long time to turn a corn dog into a inverted corn dog. Hopefully by the end of the year, they are going to take my corn dog. These ears do not want to stay on.
Okay, that's God's way of telling you that even the universe is sick of hearing your bullshit. Because this isn't the first time Lily has done this, isn't it? Just last year, Lily made a video talking about his cake pops and marshmallow tunnel, talking about all the surgeries that he plans on getting. And even though that video got literally thousands of comments from leftists too, by the way, saying that, you know, Lily, this is going too far, Lily continues on because being trans breeds narcissism. By the way, I'm not talking about actual transsexuals like friends of mine like Buck Angel, Blair White, Marcus, Tori. It's all about Lily and people like Lily. Let's dive in. Narcissistic personality disorder, as defined by the DSM-5, involves a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. And almost every single video of this person follows that exact pattern. Let's watch.
That is fancy looking. Cool.
The bottom is from Thailand?
Coconut bread from Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yes,
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, 8 seconds in, and we already have the grandiosity. 3 types of bread elevated on a silver platter from countries all across the world. I mean, Lily even says, ooh, fancy.
And the middle one is from India. It's the papadom with the ginger chutney.
Okay.
And the third is from Brazil. It's a cheese bread with the guava sauce.
Okay, stop the video there. Look at that face. Even look at the emoji that Lily posted next to it, okay? There's the need for admiration. Feel bad for me. Tell me I'm a woman and that I'm a victim.
Thank you. It just like totally sucks the joy out of this bread tower. Makes me want to immediately like leave because I no longer feel like safe here. It's like, oh, my guard now has to be up. I'm not going to enjoy this bread as much because my guard is up. We should be able to go places and not have to worry. I don't think I really want this bread tower, actually. I think I'd rather have the check, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And here's the lack of empathy, okay? When the waiter misgenders Lily, this is the face that Lily has on. And honestly, it just reeks of how dare you misgender, how dare you say that about me in my presence, you peasant. That's literally the face you give to your child when you know they're lying and you know the truth. It's like, this is the epitome of, come on, you know better. You know better than to talk to me like that.
Yeah, so as you can see, obviously, people are not having any of it. Obviously, I have to say, all of this is alleged. I can't say for certain or anything, but, you know, this person called John has come forward who allegedly knew Lily Tino prior to this from these kinds of incel groups. Apparently, John has moved on and gone his separate ways, but apparently this is the way that Nick, which was Lily prior to becoming Lily, used to behave. Obviously, it doesn't paint it in a particularly good light, and, you know, people are really micro-analysing everything since this person blew to popularity. But what do you guys make of it? What do you guys think of this, all of this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, jump to the hell out of that like button and subscribe, and until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace!